Hi everyone. Today video is on hot chocolate GraphQL pagination using cursor technique. Okay. So what is GraphQL cursor paging? In GraphQL we have cursor based pagination that is called GraphQL cursor paging. The cursors are opaque. Okay. Either offset or ID based pagination can be used. Okay. So offset is nothing but the number of rows IDs that are automatically generated when the pagination applied on the SQL query. Okay, or it will be based on the ID, means which is nothing but a primary key of a table. Okay, so in the cursor based pagination based on request of GraphQL query, response return edges and page info. Okay. Edges consist of array of objects with properties like node, cursor. Okay. Edges contains array of object and object contains node and a cursor. So node property holds single record data in it. Okay. So node contains nothing but the our table data, single record. Okay. And cursor is a base 64 string that can be either made by the row number or the record primary key ID. We have already mentioned, right? Cursor pagination is based on offset or the ID. So here is row number is nothing but the offset. Record primary is nothing but the ID based cursor. Okay. So either uh, it will uses primary key ID or the row number offset. Okay. So each edge contains node. Okay. So node will contain records, our record, single record, along with a cursor. Okay. So using cursor value, we can query our server to return the records either before or after. Okay. So basically this cursor is like a chain, ring chain. Okay. Each node is dependent on the cursor value. Okay. So based on the cursor value, we can fetch before values or the after values of the particular record of the cursor value. Okay. So how to achieve this cursor-based technique in GraphQL? It is very simple. We just need to decorate the use paging attribute on top of the our query resolver. Okay. So basically, uh, cursor-based pagination query looks like this. Here you can see edges and page info. This is my request object. So in the response, you can observe edges is an array of object I have mentioned, right? And it contains node and a cursor. If you see node is a base 64 string that is nothing but the ID or the row number is used as a cursor. And if you observe node object, it contains all our data. Okay, so like this, cursor request and response look like this. Okay, here one more note we have to remember that if we use cursor-based pagination for the GraphQL endpoint, then we cannot use the page numbers. Okay, it only supports next, previous, or first, last. That kind of pagination only integration is possible with the cursor-based pagination. Okay. So let's jump into create a small sample. Okay, here is my .NET 6 application where we are going to implement the GraphQL pagination. Okay, to make our demo simple, I have already implemented database context into my sample application. Like I have created a sample to do table. I have to do table and I have created DB context for consuming the data. Okay, now let's integrate the GraphQL. So first let's install the NuGet packages required for the GraphQL configuration. So the required package for configuring hot chocolate is hotchocolate.asp.NET Core. Okay, let's install the package. Install it. Okay, after installing package, let's create our query type. Okay, create a folder. I will name like GQL types. Inside of it, create our query type class. Okay, now let me create a small resolver method to fetch my collection of records. Okay, public Okay, this is my method. I am returning iQueryable. The reason why I am returning as iQueryable, I will explain you later. Okay, and here we are returning iQueryable of to do. Now I want to inject the DB context. For that, we know that we can use service attribute and inject my old DB context. Okay, now I am going to return the iQueryable return type. Okay, so context dot to do dot. So I want to order while returning my data based on primary key. Okay, and we want to return a queryable return type, right, as queryable. Okay, here returning iQueryable of data. That is why we are returning, because while using use paging attribute, okay, the filters for the pagination will be directly applied on the SQL raw query. Okay, if you don't specify as queryable and if you return to-do list, what will happen means it fetches all the data from the database, and after fetching the data from the database in our application, it will apply the pagination. Okay, which will be a performance issue. That is the reason we are going to use as queryable. Okay, and let's add use paging. That's it. Cursor based pagination automatically applies on our get to do's resolver. Now we need to register our GraphQL service and as well as our query type. Okay, go to program.cs file, add GraphQL server. Okay, and also we have to register our query type. Add query type. To that query type, we need to pass our type. What is our type? We have created simply query type. Okay, register. That's it. Our logic is done. Let's run and test the pagination. Okay. And one more thing, we have to map GraphQL endpoint as well. Okay. Now we can run. We can run and test our application. Our GraphQL endpoint, just append URL like GraphQL. Okay. So we know that this is the default testing tool provided by the Hot Chocolate GraphQL. It is a banana cake pop browser tool where we can easily prepare the GraphQL queries. Okay, click on create document. Okay, and one more beauty is it is automatically fetches the intelligence based on our server's GraphQL schema. Okay, so now uh, I want to prepare a query such a way I want to fetch the first four records from the server. Okay, to do that, let's start writing query. Okay, here our method name to do's. Why to do's? Because uh, schema is generated as to do's resolver method name. It will remove the prefix like get. Okay, so to do's, and I want to fetch. Okay, first four records, right? For that, here we can up, supply our record queries like, see, intelligence is showing how many records I want to fetch initially. Okay, colon, specify the number of records you want. Okay, so it will fetches the first four records from the server, but still we need to prepare more information what we want to fetch from the GraphQL server. So we know that cursor based pagination depends upon edges and cursor, right? So we need to uh, write a query that we need to require edges and cursors as well. Okay, so edges. Edges contains of two types like node, okay, and the cursor. Means we are saying along node and cursor must be written from the server. And inside of node, we can specify what are the column types we want to return from our payload. So I want like we have three columns, right? So I want to fetch all the columns. So if you want to only one column like item name, so give that only one column. No need to give anything. Okay. For demo, I am fetching all the data. Okay. And there is some additional info we have to fetch while querying. Other than edges, we also have another object that is page info. It is a sibling to edges object. Okay, page info. Inside of page info, we can request these kind of properties. So this page info is nothing but to determine whether our API has next record or it has previous record or what is the most starting cursor value, what is the most ending cursor value. Here I am requesting four records, right? So in that record, first record cursor will be written as start cursor. In the record, fourth last record, right? So that cursor value will be added here so that we can directly pass those values. Okay, those cursor values. I will show next query. The cursor's value will be sent as a query parameter. Okay, so for now, let's fetch all the data in the page info object. Okay, like as page, as previous page, start cursor, end cursor. Okay, so this is how our request query look like this. Now, if I run, see here, we got the data right from the server 102, first record 03, second record 04, fourth record 05, fourth record. Okay, only four records are from the server, and you can see here. Yes, it has the next page. And here see, previous page is false because we are fetched only starting records, right? First starting record. There won't be any previous page. Okay. So these properties will help to like disabling, enabling the next and previous page buttons. Okay. And here is the start cursor and end cursor. In the next query, we are going to use these cursor values in the request also. Okay. And let's confirm that start cursor value MA triple equal to it is nothing but the cursor value of the first record. Okay, and end cursor value MW, it is nothing but the last record value. Okay, and now if you observe our application console, you can see how the query is generated. See here, top top four records directly we have requested, right, record. So that value is passed here. Okay, means directly our page attribute, what it is doing, it applying the filters directly on the I variable. Means raw query, SQL query is generated based on the use paging query parameters. Okay, how it is doing? It will do all the query preparation internally. Okay, so this is how we can fetch the initial data. Now, if I want the data, next data. Okay, next data. Here, what is the cursor? MW equal to, right? That is nothing but the fifth record. So I want to fetch the next data. Okay, means after 1005, I want to fetch the data. So I want to fetch like two records after this cursor. Okay, for that we can pass one more property with a space. See here, we have few properties like after, before, first, last. Okay, so what I will do, I will use after. Means here you can specify a cursor value as a string. Okay, so what server will understand means we need to fetch the first two records after the specified cursor value. Okay, if I pass this cursor value, we'll get next two records, means like next page. So run it. See, 106 and 1007. Okay, like this we will get. So if you want to go for previous page, then what we have to do means you have to use before. Okay, and here you have to use last. Okay, that means before this cursor, last two records are nothing but, so cursor is 1005, right? Last two record means after, before the 1005, 1004, 1003 are our previous pages. Okay, now run query and test. See here, we got previous records. Okay, like this, we have to query the pagination. Okay, so we won't see any explicit query parameters. Okay, by default, use paging attribute will consume these values and apply those values directly on the raw SQL. Now you can see previously when I show it is taken top right, but here you can see it is like offset. Okay, now query is generated as offset, means pagination applied directly on the select query. So that's it about cursor pagination in Hot Chocolate GraphQL endpoint. I hope this video has delivered some useful information to you all. So if you like my video, please support me by subscribing to my channel. Soon we are going to meet with new videos. Until then, signing off.